Now, if you've been following the US presidential elections, you'll often have seen the polarised positions held by the candidates and their supporters.
Here's an interesting article from Radio 4's All in the Mind, looking at how taking a polarised position will make you more likeable, in this case regarding politics, and how being nuanced, i.e. trying to look at both sides, will only make you less well liked.
And likewise, over here, it can often feel as though political debate is becoming more polarised. But what if you're someone who likes to take an evidence-based approach and who can sometimes see merits in both sides of an argument? You might hope that politics could have room for some more nuance. But Kavita, from the new study you have for us, maybe I'm being wildly optimistic here, or I am, if you want people to like you. So Kavita, this study was conducted in the US and is published in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology. What did the psychologists do?
So it's a really fascinating study. So the starting point for this group is to say that maybe the way to deal with this polarisation is to see whether if people occupy that middle space where they can see nuance, as you say, that those people are more likeable. And if you're more likeable, then maybe, and this is their hypothesis, you would be better able to achieve consensus and political success. So the way they studied this was to recruit over 1,000 Americans from an online platform. And they chose 3 polarising topics: immigration, the death penalty and COVID mask mandates. And what they asked their participants to do was firstly indicate whether or not they were for or against those particular topics. And they also assessed the level of ambivalence that they had. So they used this term ambivalence to indicate nuance. So you could either be somebody who's very pro masks and say, I believe that they protect not only the person who's infected, but other people, and it's a sign of patriotism to wear them. That would be somebody who's very pro the issue and showing no ambivalence. But equally, you could be someone who says, well, I think masks are quite a good idea, but I do think that they infringe civil liberties. And so that would make you someone who's pro, but obviously showing a bit of nuance in your logic. So all of the respondents had to indicate their position on these 3 topics, and then they were randomly presented with a target. And a target was basically somebody who they were told had participated in the study previously, and they were presented with that person's position and the degree of nuance. And they were asked to rate a number of things, but the primary thing they wanted to know about was how much did they like them.
And I'm guessing people would like the people best who agreed with them?
That's exactly what they found. Spoiler alert, exactly what you'd expect. The other thing they found, which is not surprising, is that the more ambivalent you are as a person, the more you liked the ambivalent people. But what is perhaps surprising is that the people who sit in the middle, the people who, if you looked at the liking ratings overall, the people who were disliked the most were the people who were ambivalent, even if they agreed with you on the topic overall. So to give you an example, I might say to you, I'm in favour of vaccination, and you might also say you're in favour of vaccination. But if I qualify my support for it by saying, but I know that some people are not sure about how they were developed and whether or not they're safe, you would like me a lot less. So actually, the results of this study suggest that sitting in the middle, being ambivalent or having a nuanced position makes you less likeable.
So it sounds as though we don't like it when people express nuance, even when they agree with us. But why wouldn't we like someone who adds a bit of nuance to the debate? Do you think we might think they're cleverer?
I think that some of the explanations the authors provide include the fact that you're being less coherent in your argument, and also that you are undermining the other person's views. So in other words, if you are pro-vaccination and you're talking to somebody who is pro-vaccine but can see the other side, you feel like you're undermining your own point of view. So those were some of the reasons that were given.
So it sounds as though if you want people to like you, you need to take a clear stand on an issue rather than being more nuanced about it. But is that good for society?
Well, this is where the study leaves many questions unanswered. So the first question is, what is the evidence that being liked actually allows you to arrive at political consensus? And we don't really know that, or indeed, does it allow for political success? And there's a couple of things that we can think about there which might suggest that the story is a bit more complicated. So if you look, for example, at the 2016 election, Donald Trump in the States was less well liked than his opponent, Hillary Clinton. But of course, he was successful and he won.
So lots of questions there about whether it matters to be liked and whether that makes any difference to who wins or doesn't.
Indeed.
Speaking of polarising points of view, click here for Farage grandstanding about Justin Welby.